What if I told you that a simple piece of cloth has started wars, ended revolutions, and literally rewritten the identity of millions of people overnight? What if the flag hanging outside your government building right now contains secrets, hidden messages, and stories of blood, betrayal, and rebirth that nobody ever taught you in school? Pause whatever you're doing for the next 30 seconds, because what I'm about to reveal about flags will make you look at every single national symbol completely differently. You're watching Mind of the World, the channel where we uncover the hidden forces shaping nations, cultures, and the very fabric of human civilization. If you're the kind of person who loves discovering what's really happening beneath the surface of history, smash that subscribe button right now and hit the bell because you don't want to miss what's coming. Drop a like on this video if you've ever wondered why countries suddenly decide to change something as fundamental as their own flag. Today, we're answering a question that sounds simple but opens up a treasure chest of incredible stories. Why do countries change their flags? The answer involves dictators being overthrown at midnight, ancient empires crumbling, colonies breaking free, and sometimes just really embarrassing design mistakes that governments desperately wanted to fix. Let me start with the most dramatic reason flags change: revolution. Picture this: it's 1989 in Romania. The communist dictator Nicolae Ceausescu has ruled with an iron fist for decades. The Romanian flag during this period had the communist coat of arms right in the center, a symbol of everything the people had grown to hate. When the revolution exploded and protesters flooded the streets, they didn't just demand political change. They took their flags and literally cut out the communist emblem, leaving a hole right in the middle. Romanians waved these flags with holes as symbols of liberation. The empty space represented the removal of tyranny. Think about how powerful that is. A hole in a flag became more meaningful than any symbol could ever be. This pattern repeats throughout history whenever people overthrow their governments. The flag becomes the first target because it represents everything about the old regime. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, country after country rushed to abandon the hammer and sickle. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Ukraine, Georgia, all of them immediately restored older flags or created entirely new ones. The speed was remarkable. Within days of declaring independence, these nations had new flags flying. Why such urgency? Because a flag is identity. Keeping the old flag would mean the old masters still had a psychological grip on the nation. Hungary has one of the most emotional flag stories connected to revolution. During the 1956 uprising against Soviet control, Hungarians did exactly what Romanians would do decades later. They cut out the communist coat of arms from their flag. The flag with the hole became the symbol of resistance. Soviet tanks eventually crushed the revolution, but the image of that flag with the hole in it never died. It remained a secret symbol of hope for 33 years until communism finally fell. But revolution isn't the only reason flags change. Sometimes the reason is decolonization, and these stories are equally fascinating. Imagine being a country that has been controlled by a foreign power for centuries. Your flag was chosen by colonizers. Your symbols were imposed by outsiders. The moment you gain independence, what's the first thing you want to do? Create your own identity. When India gained independence from Britain in 1947, the flag became a matter of intense national debate. The design needed to represent a new nation, a free nation, something that had nothing to do with British rule. The result was the saffron, white, and green tricolor with the Ashoka chakra in the center, a wheel representing Dharma and progress. Every element was carefully chosen to represent Indian philosophy and values, not British ones. Africa's decolonization wave in the 1950s and 1960s created dozens of new flags almost simultaneously. Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Tanzania, Senegal, the list goes on. Many of these nations adopted similar colors: red, yellow, green, and black, which became known as Pan-African colors. These colors were inspired by the Ethiopian flag because Ethiopia was one of the only African nations never colonized by European powers. By adopting these colors, newly independent nations were making a statement: we belong to Africa. We are not extensions of European empires. Libya has changed its flag more than almost any other country, and its story is wild. Under King Idris, Libya had a flag with the Islamic star and crescent. When Muammar Gaddafi seized power in 1969, he changed it to a red, white, and black design based on Arab unity. Then, in 1977, Gaddafi made Libya's flag the simplest in the entire world: a plain, solid green rectangle. Nothing else, just green. This was supposedly representing his Green Revolution and Islamic philosophy. It was the only national flag in the world with just one color and zero designs. When Gaddafi was overthrown in 2011, the rebel forces immediately brought back the old monarchist flag, and it remains Libya's flag today. Now let's talk about a reason for flag changes that might surprise you: unification and division. When countries merge or split apart, flags have to change because the political reality has fundamentally shifted. Germany's flag history is a masterclass in this. When East Germany and West Germany reunified in 1990, the East German flag with its communist hammer and compass emblem disappeared entirely. The unified Germany simply used West Germany's black, red, and gold tricolor. But here's an interesting detail many people don't know. West Germany's flag was itself a return to an older German flag from the 1800s, one associated with liberal democratic movements. The Nazis had replaced it with their swastika flag. So modern Germany's flag is actually a statement, a deliberate rejection of the Nazi period, and a return to democratic traditions. Yugoslavia's breakup in the 1990s created the opposite situation. One flag became many flags. Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro, North Macedonia all needed distinct flags immediately. These flags became matters of intense national pride and sometimes conflict. The symbols chosen weren't random. They reached back into medieval history, into periods before Yugoslavia existed, to establish that these nations had identities predating the unified state. South Sudan provides the most recent example of a new flag being born from division. When South Sudan gained independence from Sudan in 2011, it became the world's newest country and needed a completely new flag. The design included a blue triangle representing the Nile River, which is central to the region's geography and identity. The flag was a statement of separateness, of having an identity distinct from the nation it had broken away from. Sometimes flags change for reasons that are less dramatic but equally revealing. Embarrassment. Yes, countries have changed their flags because the old ones had problems nobody anticipated. New Zealand held referendums in 2015 and 2016 to potentially change their flag. Why? Because their flag looks almost identical to Australia's flag. Seriously, look at them side by side. Both feature the Union Jack in the corner and the Southern Cross constellation. New Zealand officials were tired of being confused with Australia at international events. Athletes had the wrong flag raised at medal ceremonies. Diplomats were handed the wrong flag at meetings. Ultimately, New Zealand voted to keep their flag, but the confusion continues. Chad and Romania have flags that are virtually indistinguishable. Both are blue, yellow, and red vertical stripes. The only difference is that Romania's blue is slightly lighter. This has caused real diplomatic incidents. In 2004, Chad's president actually asked the United Nations to address the similarity, calling it an unacceptable situation. Nothing changed because neither country wanted to modify their flag for the other. Speaking of awkward flag situations, let's talk about Malawi. In 2010, President Bingu wa Mutharika changed the Malawian flag. The original flag had a rising sun, symbolizing the dawn of hope and freedom for Africa. Mutharika changed it to a full white sun because he said Malawi had developed beyond the dawn and was now in full daylight. The public hated this change. When Mutharika died in 2012, his successor, Joyce Banda, immediately changed the flag back to the rising sun. A president literally undid his predecessor's flag change within weeks of taking power. Now, here's a category of flag changes that few people think about. Ideological shifts that don't involve complete revolution. Countries sometimes change their flags to signal a new direction without overthrowing the government entirely. Myanmar, formerly Burma, changed its flag in 2010 as part of a broader transition from military dictatorship towards something resembling democracy. The old red flag with socialist symbols was replaced with a yellow, green, and red flag with a white star. The government claimed this represented a new era. Critics said it was just cosmetic change while military control continued behind the scenes. Either way, the flag change was meant to signal transformation to the outside world. Iraq's flag changes tell a complicated story. Under Saddam Hussein, the flag featured 3 stars representing the Ba'ath Party's goal of Arab unity, and the words Allahu Akbar supposedly in Saddam's own handwriting. After the 2003 invasion and Saddam's fall, there was intense debate about changing the flag. Eventually, in 2008, Iraq modified the flag by keeping Allahu Akbar but removing the 3 stars and changing the script to a standard calligraphic style. The changes were subtle but symbolically significant, erasing Saddam's personal touch while maintaining religious and national elements. Afghanistan holds the world record for flag changes, having modified its flag over 20 times in the past century. Every major political shift brought a new flag. The monarchy had one flag. The Soviet-backed communist government had another. The Mujahideen had theirs. The Taliban's first regime used a plain white flag with the Shahada. When the Taliban were overthrown, the old tricolor returned. When the Taliban took over again in 2021, the white flag came back. Afghanistan's flag history is basically a timeline of the country's turbulent political struggles. Let me share something that most people never consider. The process of designing a new flag is incredibly difficult. How do you capture an entire nation's identity, history, values, and aspirations in a simple design that looks good at any size and is recognizable from a distance? South Africa faced this challenge in 1994 when apartheid ended and Nelson Mandela was about to become president. The old flag was tainted by its association with white minority rule. A new flag was essential, but what should it look like? The designer, Frederick Brono, had only a week to create something that could unite a deeply divided nation. He created the distinctive Y-shaped design that converges into a single horizontal band. This convergence was meant to represent South Africa's different peoples coming together as one nation. The 6 colors, more than almost any other national flag, represented the diversity of the Rainbow Nation. This flag succeeded because it looked forward rather than backward, symbolizing hope rather than recrimination. Canada's flag change in 1965 remains one of the most contentious in democratic history. Before that, Canada used the red ensign, which featured the Union Jack prominently. Prime Minister Lester Pearson pushed for a distinctly Canadian flag without British symbols. The debate was fierce. Veterans who had fought under the red ensign felt their sacrifices were being erased. Others felt the Union Jack represented colonialism. The maple leaf design eventually won, but the Great Canadian Flag Debate, as it's called, lasted months and generated passionate arguments across the country. Today, the maple leaf is beloved worldwide, but its adoption was anything but smooth. Here's a fascinating pattern I want you to notice. When countries change flags, they almost always reach into the past, not into the future. New flags typically revive old symbols, pre-colonial designs, pre-dictatorship emblems, or ancient national motifs. It's surprisingly rare for countries to adopt completely new symbols with no historical connection. This tells us something profound about how nations think about identity. Even during revolutionary change, people want continuity. They want to feel connected to something larger and older than the current political moment. Russia's flag illustrates this perfectly. When the Soviet Union fell, Russia didn't create something entirely new. It restored the white, blue, and red tricolor that had been Russia's flag before the communists took power. The message was clear. The Soviet period was an interruption. The real Russia, the historical Russia, was returning. Spain did something similar after Francisco Franco's dictatorship ended. While the basic red and yellow design stayed the same, the symbols within the flag were modified to remove Francoist elements and restore symbols associated with the pre-Franco monarchy and Spanish traditions. Now I want to address something you might be wondering. Do flag changes actually work? Do they achieve what governments hope for? The answer's complicated. Changing a flag can be powerfully unifying when it represents genuine transformation, like South Africa after apartheid or Germany after reunification. But when flag changes are imposed without popular support, or when they're seen as superficial gestures without real change behind them, they can backfire spectacularly. The Soviet Union tried to create loyalty through symbols, designing elaborate flags for each Soviet republic. But when the system collapsed, those symbols were rejected instantly. People burned Soviet flags in the streets. The symbols had never captured genuine loyalty because they represented an imposed system rather than organic national identity. This reveals something important about flags that governments sometimes forget. A flag cannot create national unity. It can only reflect it. If the underlying society is divided, no design, no matter how clever, will paper over those divisions. But if genuine unity exists, a flag can become a powerful focal point for that shared identity. We've covered revolutions and decolonization, unification and division, embarrassment and ideology. But there's one more reason flags change that I find particularly interesting. Sometimes flags change simply because they were bad designs to begin with. Pocatello, Idaho, was once voted as having the worst city flag in North America. It was a copyright-free image with the city's name in clip art-style font, looking like something made in Microsoft Word. When this embarrassing distinction became widely known, the city redesigned their flag into something much more respectable. Provo, Utah, had a similarly notorious flag that looked like a corporate logo from the 1980s. Public mockery eventually led to a redesign. These examples are from cities rather than countries, but the principle applies at all levels. Bad design eventually gets corrected, especially in the age of internet where mockery spreads instantly. So, what have we learned from this journey through flag changes? First, flags are never just cloth. They're containers for national identity, historical memory, and political meaning. When that meaning changes, the flag must change with it. Second, the most powerful flag changes come from below, from popular movements that demand new symbols to match new realities. Imposed flag changes rarely capture hearts and minds. Third, nations almost always look backward when designing new flags, searching for authentic historical symbols that predate whatever period they're trying to move beyond. Fourth, Timing matters enormously. Countries change flags during moments of transformation because those are the moments when identity is up for grabs. The next time you see a national flag, any flag, I want you to ask yourself these questions. How long has this flag existed? What was here before it? What story is this flag trying to tell, and who chose that story? The answers will open up entire worlds of history, conflict, and human drama that most people never see. If this video changed how you think about flags and national symbols, you need to subscribe to Mind of the World right now. We go deep on the hidden stories behind politics, history, and the forces shaping our world. Hit that like button to help this video reach more curious minds, and drop a comment telling me which country's flag story surprised you the most. I have a question for you. If your country were to change its flag tomorrow, what would you want the new design to represent? Let me know in the comments because I read every single one. This has been Mind of the World, where we look beneath the surface of everything. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next one.